Despite falling outside of the top 10, Matas Buzelis is showing why everyone was wrong. As a 6'10 wing that moves like he's 6'6 and someone that excels in being a big team player on both sides of the ball, he has legit star potential. Since late January, Matas is averaging 13.5 on very good shooting splits for a rookie, and even 16.5 and 6 rebounds on 52, 49, 73 splits in the last 11 games. And he has firmly put himself in all rookie discussions for a Bulls team that is in the postseason. He's quite clearly a top 10 rookie, but how is Matas this good already, and just how good can he be? Matas' potential as a scorer is very tantalizing for NBA fans, as he has a history of scoring at a high level as one of the best scorers in the high school circuits, and even showed flashes for a G League Ignite team that was clearly not very supportive for players to actually develop their game like it was supposed to be for. Maybe the best quality of Matas is how willing of a transition player he is. The Bulls like to push the pace a lot off the defensive glass, and Matas is key in doing so, as he will sprint down court at any moment to get good looks. He has a really high motor and is able to generate a lot of easy buckets because of how good he is at just sprinting in transition, while being in the right space to optimize the shots taken. That has led to Buzelis being top 60 across the whole league in transition points, while being in the top 20% of efficiency, helping lead the second best offensive transition team in the league. What is really encouraging about Matas is his fluidity at that size. Despite being a wing, though he can play the 4, he moves insanely well. He can get to his spots very easily and also just rise and shoot over defenders because of that height. His three-point shot does look to be a make-or-break thing for him as a player, but I have a lot of faith in it. His form isn't perfect, but it is a nice smooth motion, and while he isn't hitting no-dip threes and still has to bring the ball down to start the jumper, teams aren't glued to him off the three-point line, so it's fine. He started the season shooting rough, just 32.7% on about 100 attempts through mid to late January, but since then, he has been on fire, shooting 37.7% on 167 attempts from deep, and among all rookies, he's 4th in made threes in that stretch. Now, he doesn't really shoot any pull-up shots, just 20 attempts on the season, and about 90% of his threes are from catch and shoot, but that is actually a good thing, though we will talk more about that later. He also doesn't shoot really well from above the break threes, but is a demon in the corner, and that may actually be an encouraging thing. Once he gets the above the break threes, his percentages will be way better, and we know that he can hit those shots from the percentages we talked about. But off the catch, he has good location skills and uses off-ball movements to create space for himself and others. Buzelis really excels in his cutting. Even in transition, he's good, but it can really optimize the Bulls' half-court offense, and how he does it is pretty unique for a player his age, showing his intelligence. Buzelis is very good at cutting into space and finding gaps within the defense to get open looks near the rim, commonly leaking through off-ball screens to get looks. His cutting also takes defenders with him sometimes, leaving players open to get good deep-range looks. His speed and flexibility at his height let him catch the ball wherever and put up a good shot. Matas is one of the best rookie cutters, especially as he isn't a big and is in the 67.5 percentile for cutting efficiency, a very good number for someone his age and where he was developed at. It is shocking that a player that came out of the Ignite has this level of IQ as a rookie to be using cuts to this degree of usefulness, and that has all the makings of a player that does the little things to help his team win, as he doesn't need the ball in his hands to impact the Bulls offensively. Now, something that Matas is inconsistent at currently is his finishing, which makes sense. He isn't the most efficient at the rim, and most of it is likely something that he will get better at. Buzelis is very inconsistent with contact, sometimes being phased too much by it at the rim, but sometimes he's able to finish through it. And he doesn't really look to draw contact over smaller players. He still struggles to score over bigs inside when he's the only one driving the ball, but that should change as he puts on more weight and is able to use more of his body to impact defenders. His fluidity does help him score inside at an elite rate though, and usually playing the 3 and 4, he's able to just put the ball over smaller players. Not many players can move like that at his size, and he has a bag of moves that he's able to use to drive through the defense and create space inside. With how much he drives inside, he should get more free throw attempts, and he's becoming a much more efficient as a driver. Now, Matas also doesn't really have a mid-range games, shooting a horrid 15.4% in the short midi, and doesn't take many attempts in the longer mid-range. That is not having the ball in his hand much, and a mix of his lack of pull-ups and a lack of floaters. And while it won't ruin his game by not having the worst statistical shot in his repertoire, it may restrict his ceiling a little bit. An intriguing part of his game, though, is his passing, where it looks like he has legit flashes to be a big playmaker despite not having the raw assist numbers yet. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to ask if y'all can subscribe if you actually enjoyed the video. That would mean a lot, and we're pretty close to 2.5k subs, which is crazy, so thank you for so much of the support. Also, if the audio is bad, I'm recording this outside, so I'm so sorry about that, but back to the video. We already talked about his off-ball playmaking, setting screens to cut, and using off-ball movements to create for everyone on the court, which already makes him an encouraging playmaker, but with the ball in his hands, he is very capable. Matas is very good at making cross-court passes, but maybe his best on-ball passing tool is his connective passing. He's a willing passer, and as a threat on the three-point line, he will willingly swing it out to teammates for a better look. Matas can also pass inside and has shown a lot of playmaking as someone that can be a very good playmaker and just passer in general. He has the raw tools, and though he doesn't have a good assist-to-turnover ratio, that isn't really indicative of his playmaking. A lot of these turnovers are from his handle not being too tight yet, especially since he's 6'10", and not because of bad passes. Buzelis makes some very good reads and is a smart passer that is willing to do so. And about his handle, it isn't bad, but just at 6'10", if you don't have the tightest handle, then you will commit some turnovers. Now, Matas even has a good behind-the-back move, something that even led to a baseline dunk against the Lakers earlier this year. Matas is also a very confident player with his moves, which really makes him so good as a rookie, especially recently. He knows what to do and what moves to make and doesn't really hesitate on his movements. He knows what reads he will pass to and is very smart with what he does, something that a lot of players his age aren't as good at. Now, defensively, Matas has a lot of promise on becoming a big positive in the future. Now, let's talk about his flaws before what he excels at first. He struggles with size as a defender. Bigger players can just drive at him, and he isn't always able to contain their size and strength when driving. A big flaw, as he sometimes does play the 4, is that opposing players can easily get good inside positioning on him, which leaves Buzelis in a big deficit defensively. He cannot guard post-ups, and for being 6'10", he isn't a great inside defender on his made guy, and that leads to another problem. He just isn't a one-on-one guy. This may not be a huge problem, but he will never be a point of attack defender and doesn't have the best foot speed, as opposing players can just get by him at sometimes. But where does Buzelis excel on defense? Well, by far his best trait defensively is his weak side shot blocking. His IQ on defense is very impressive, and he doesn't get the best defensive assignments because of his lack of POA defense, and that has led to Buzelis getting a lot of opportunities to create problems on the weak side, and that is what he has done. He genuinely causes havoc. Buzelis is also just so tall that he does provide some rim protection. Someone at his height will always be tougher to finish over, especially for smaller players that he may be tasked with guarding. Even when he gets blowed by, he still has the wingspan and defensive recovery to block those shots, or at least contest it sometimes. Buzelis is also a defensive playmaker. He's able to knock balls away, and for a team that we know is such a heavy transition team, this is where Buzelis is really good at helping them. He has a good wingspan and is just a great team defender. He works very well within a system, and though he won't be some all-defense guy or even a premier defender on a team, Buzelis can definitely be a positive depending on the situation. Now, what is so encouraging about Matas' future in the league offensively? His portability is genuinely insane, and that leads me to believe he can be a top 50 or so player in the league. Portability can be defined as a player's ability to positively impact the game regardless of what situation they are in and the players around them. Matas exemplifies this and is one of the most portable rookies of this class. Matas is still able to thrive with the ball in his hands and is definitely a positive player while doing so, having the creation to score on multiple levels, but also being a plus passer. But he's a great off-ball player and really reaches his best when he isn't even the first option. Over the stretch of Matas playing at this improved level, Josh Giddey has had the best stretch of his career, while Kobe White is having one of the best stretches of his career. Matas playing better and having more responsibility isn't taking away from others, but actually improving his teammates, and this is why he's going to thrive. Unlike some younger players that grew up as a highly rated recruit and prospect, being someone that can positively impact the game no matter what your role is can make someone a key player on a championship team. Think most recently to Aaron Gordon, who adjusted his game into being someone that does the little things, especially defensively, and was able to reshape his game offensively. Even last year's Celtics, Jason Tatum, who is a superstar, doesn't need the ball in his hands to affect the game, as he's elite at doing many role player tasks. Those type of players, especially on the role player level, can become top 70, 50, even 40 guys just off of that. Right now, Amen is amazing without being a primary scoring threat, and even guys like Bilal Coulibaly, Jalen Wells, and Herb Jones have huge impacts on the game because of this. And while Matas won't become a defender like them, he can be better offensively. Of course, to the latter mentioned players and not JT, but his spacing and encouraging signs as a catch-and-shoot deep-range guy and elite cutter show that he can work in so many different situations. Matas is just a team player that helps everyone on both sides, and what I also believe in is his scalability. Matas should be able to continue getting better when given the opportunity, which sounds like a given, but not everybody can take those leaps. At 6'10", Matas has a lot more on-ball potential that he can grow into, and with his passing and driving already very encouraging, and the ability to hit jumpers clearly there is a chance where he turns into one of the main ball handlers while still being an off-ball demon, and a playmaker on the other side of the ball. This Bulls team is showing the most long-term flashes it has since the start of the 2022-23 season, and it is actually being led by encouraging young guys instead of vets. While Matas still has a ways to go, he has looked like one of the best rookies in the league over the last few months and is doing it on a postseason team.